In this video, we will show you some of the rare photos of the awesome Wynonna Judd, while also sharing with you the crazy, untold tragic details of her iconic life. Wynonna Judd is one of country music's biggest names, but behind the scenes, her family was possibly the most dysfunctional celebrity family of all time. From the cruel last words her mother said to her before she took her own life, to the terrible secret about her father and her famous sister, Ashley Judd, her mother kept away from her for 30 years. And the real reason why Wynonna also almost took her own life multiple times. We'll share with you all these untold tragic details while also showing you some of Wynonna's rare photos. With that said, let's get started. Wynonna was barely 18 when she became a music superstar, all thanks to her mother, Naomi Judd. Since Wynonna was just a shy teenage girl, her mother had built her up as a musician, but at the same time, she had also destroyed her as a person. On stage, mother and daughter seemed like the perfect duo, always laughing and joking and having a fun time. But Wynonna and Naomi kept something hidden from their fans, because offstage and behind the curtains, their loving dynamic had a far darker reality. In fact, the two would almost always fight and bicker and be at each other's throats. And if you paid close attention, you could even see it in interviews. It may seem like a little bit of fun and harmless banter, but the tension between them was like walking on a razor's edge. Just watch this example, for instance.
I'm aware.
Mom always felt like she had to save me.
Always.
Let's just talk
I mean,
about
from
it.
the moment that I
You
knew she
always
was
felt
there.
you had to save me. Do you know enough about, birth control? Obviously not, Mother, because I got pregnant.
Sadly, it seems like they carried that tension right to the end, and most heartbreaking of all was Naomi's cruel and hurtful last words to her daughter. Wynonna's mother had battled for a long time with mental illness and depression, and had also opened up about her struggles in interviews.
But then I would come home and not leave the house for 3 weeks and not get out of my pajamas, not practice normal hygiene. It was really bad.
But on April 30th, 2022, she completely shocked the entire country music world and left her fans speechless and heartbroken. Naomi took her own life just one day before she and Wynonna were to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Wynonna's sister, Ashley, had the heart-wrenching task of revealing the sad news to the public and even sharing some of the gruesome details.
Our mother couldn't hang on until she was inducted into the Hall of Fame by her peers. I mean, that is the level of catastrophe of what was going on inside of her.
And can you guess what Wynonna's last words to her mother were? On the afternoon that Naomi ended her own life, Wynonna sweetly told her mother, "I love you." And then,
I kissed her on the forehead and I walked away.
what a sweet moment, right? But later, just before she took her own life, Naomi left a note with very clear instructions, and it must have broken Wynonna's heart. All the note said were these 11 crushing words: "Do not let Y come to my funeral. She's mentally ill." Can you imagine what a stab to the heart it must have been for Wynonna? And what about all the unanswered questions that will haunt her for the rest of her life? Just the next day after losing their beloved mother, and despite their pain that was still very raw, the two sisters did attend Wynonna and Naomi's induction into the Hall of Fame, even sharing some humor in their darkest hour.
I didn't prepare anything tonight because I knew Mom would probably talk the most.
Even though Wynonna and Naomi had such a tumultuous relationship, they did dearly love each other, and they needed each other. One testament to their love-hate roller coaster ride was something else that Wynonna's mother had said to her many years ago. Amidst all the pain and confusion she feels about her mother's passing and their torn relationship, these words always comfort her.
And she takes my hand and she says, "Because of you, my life has been better." And I will never forget that. It was like, whoa. She just doesn't pass that out very often.
The truth is, the tension between Wynonna and her mother had always been there. Even while Wynonna was growing up, the two had terrible fights. But why? Well, to understand it, we need to start from the beginning. Wynonna was born on May 30th, 1964, but her name wasn't always Wynonna. She was christened as Christina Claire Simonella, and later changed her name when she and her mother had their hearts set on becoming famous. Naomi was just 17 when she got pregnant with Wynonna, but for 30 years, Naomi kept a terrible secret from Wynonna. And for the longest time, after Wynonna finally found out, she resented her mother for it. But what could be so horrible that you refuse to forgive your own mother? Well, Wynonna's father, whom she was named after, is a man called Michael Charles Simonella. He is also the father of Wynonna's younger sister, Ashley. Michael Simonella was married to Naomi for just 8 years, but everything Wynonna thought she knew about her father was a complete lie. It turned out that Michael wasn't her real dad, which also meant that Ashley was only her half-sister. Actually, Wynonna's real father abandoned her even before she was born. Wynonna was devastated that her mother would keep such a serious secret from her for so long. Naomi had met Michael when she was pregnant with Wynonna. Even though he wasn't the father, he loved Naomi and wanted to support her. So, the two got married outside of town to avoid gossip and scandal. But 8 years later, their marriage fell apart, and Naomi was left to raise Wynonna and Ashley on her own. Financially, times were extremely dire, and she struggled to put food on the table. If not for welfare checks, they probably wouldn't have survived. Winters were especially hard on the family. At times, there was no firewood to keep themselves warm. At night, even the toilet inside the house would freeze over. Wynonna and Ashley had to share what few blankets they had so they would not freeze to death. The family had no television and no phone, and the sisters had to entertain themselves with whatever they could. As Wynonna was growing up, she started to resent her mother for the life they had. Wynonna was also a loner in school, and she had very few friends. She constantly felt like she didn't fit in anywhere. Even in her own family, she felt out of place, and she blamed her mother for it, but not completely without reason. As a mother, Naomi was overwhelming and controlling, and the two fought a lot. Hoping to rein in her rebellious young daughter, Naomi bought a guitar for Wynonna when she turned 12 years old. Hopefully, Naomi thought, music would tame her a little bit. Wynonna loved the instrument, and soon, mother and daughter formed a bond through music, playing and singing together. It was also during this time that she changed her name from Christina to Wynonna. The inspiration for the name came from one of her favorite songs, Route 66 by Nat King Cole. In the song, there is a line that says, "Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Wynonna." Realizing that they both were brilliantly talented and they might have a shot at making a career out of their music, Naomi took the children and moved to Nashville. While pursuing music made her life better in some ways, it made it worse in other ways. And when she was around 18, Wynonna found herself drowning in a deep depression. She felt so lost that she even contemplated ending her own life, if not for her love for music that ultimately saved her. In 1983, Wynonna and her mother landed their first record deal as the Judds. Wynonna was just 18 years old. The duo was instantly shot to fame. But fame was something that Wynonna really struggled with. They literally went from welfare to millionaire overnight, and it was too much for a girl her age to cope with. Constantly touring and living on a bus together did also not help the torn relationship between Wynonna and her mother. If anything, it only made it so much worse. Aside from that, her personal life was also filled with ups and downs, and it all escalated when she got married. In 1996, Wynonna married businessman Arch Kelly. Even though they were married for just 2 years, they welcomed 2 children together. Elijah was born on December 3rd, 1994, and he took on his mother's maiden name, Judd. And on June 21st, 1996, Wynonna gave birth to her daughter, Grace Pauline Kelly. The fact that Grace kept her father's surname might tell us a lot about the relationship between mother and daughter, because it seems that the tension between Wynonna and Naomi runs in the family. It just might be in the Judd DNA. It's true what they say, that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and Wynonna and her own daughter also have an equally tumultuous relationship. It was so bad at one stage that when Grace was 16, she ran away from home and ended up with her aunt, Wynonna's sister, Ashley. After a court battle, Ashley was granted temporary custody of her niece. Some sources even say that Wynonna blamed her sister for stealing her daughter away from her. Grace, who is now 27, sadly had many run-ins with the law and had also served time behind bars on charges related to illegal substances. During her last sentence, Grace was pregnant while serving her time and was granted temporary leave to give birth. One thing Wynonna has learned throughout her years is that in darkness, there is light, and in sorrow, there is joy. With the death of her mother, this philosophy could not have been more true for Wynonna, because just 2 weeks before losing her mother, her baby granddaughter was born. Even to this day, Wynonna is not afraid to admit that she still regularly fights depression and anxiety on any given day, saying in one interview, "Oh honey, pick a day. When you live on a farm, you think, oh, I could just jump in a lake, but then I think I've got to stick around for my grandkids and make more music." So Wynonna keeps fighting and keeps pushing through for her family and for her fans. One clear example of that was at the 57th Annual Country Music Awards. Fans were immediately worried for her health after her performance with fellow singer Jelly Roll, where she appeared to be hanging onto Jelly Roll for support. But Wynonna set the record straight, saying that she was nervous and anxious and she had to hang onto his arm for dear life to calm her nerves. People sometimes think that music stars are invincible, but to struggling fans, it means the world to hear a larger-than-life icon like Wynonna Judd talk openly about her mental health struggles, depression, and anxiety. More than just a music legend, Wynonna is a role model and an inspiration. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.